taking all the top people. Rich got all the top people together, everybody who's relevant in this sector right now that don't know. If you don't know Wes Watson, GP Penitentiary Life YouTube channel creator, did 10 years in the California prison system, came out, started offering fitness and training programs. I capped out at about $3,000 a month until my YouTube channel started to explode. And then I even capped out with millions of views on this channel that was exploding. First video, 600,000 views. Second, 2.5 million. So when they say that you cannot blow up in your first video, I did, but my business didn't. My business didn't because it capped out at 15,000 a month, even with all this organic views. So what happened was I got in touch with Rich Schefren, and he showed me the systems that brought me from 15K a month to 300K a month today, and we're still growing. The Steal Our Winners program for $1, you gotta sign up. I'm actually interviewed in the program, and what we're doing here.
What's up, Alex Jeffries here. So we're with Wes Watson right now. Wes was just doing a video for Rich Schefren talking about how he was making $3,000 a month with organic, got to $15,000 a month. And with the millions of views this guy gets with his YouTube channel, he couldn't break $15,000 a month. When he got introduced to Rich and the business systems, you're at what now?
300K a month and climbing.
100 G's a month. So if you want to learn about how to go from this amount to this amount, like I did, when I met Rich, I was making 20K a month. We do 6 figures a month. Steal Our Winners. Come and see what me and him and every other influencer guru who's worth their salt is talking about in Steal Our Winners for $1. Check it out. I love you, brother.
It's time for another segment of Steal Our Winners.
If you're watching this, we're studying from the best of the best.
Super simple to put into place. Anyone can steal and deploy this.
Some of the world's top marketers are learning this. People who are just starting out are learning it.
A lot of the strategies are strategies that you have never heard of before.
We had like the highest click-through rates, the highest show rates, and the highest engagement. But we ended up generating 270,000 leads. It was bananas. It was nuts.
At one point, there was like 19 people bought in the same minute. I've just got, so many ideas from this.
Appreciate you for including me, the rest of this group.
Thanks for having me. I got some more heat for you in the future, so I'll see you guys soon.
Until then, to higher profits and beyond, this is Rich Schefren, over and out. Hello. So welcome everyone. And we have a special guest with us today. So before I bring him on, just a few housekeeping things. So I'm going to post a link below me here. There it is. And that link is for a webinar that John and I are going to be doing live in about 2.5 hours from now or so, a little bit sooner than that. And thought it would be a fun idea to invite John on here as well before doing this webinar a little bit later on together. And so let's just kind of dive into the general housekeeping so that then we can bring John on it and get to it. So you might be wondering what was on that slide. It was besides a picture of John and I. Before I was thinking about inviting John on, I was just going to pull up some of my old copywriting notes, some notes I took way back in the day. Actually, the very first copywriting seminar I ever went to, which was advertised as Dan Kennedy's final copywriting event. Of course, I think he did about 50 or 20 of those final copywriting events. He always seemed to have another reason to do another one. But anyway, that was back in, Jesus Christ, I think that was in before, yeah, that had to be like 1997 or sometime around there. Anyway, my name is Rich Schefren. I do these live streams every Tuesday and Thursday, Tuesdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern and Thursdays from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. And we are broadcasting on Facebook, on my fan page, and in the Strategic Profits group, as well as my personal page and the Groove Facebook group. In addition to that, we are broadcasting live on LinkedIn and YouTube and Periscope. And so if you're watching this on YouTube, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, please subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, please emote and comment, as well as if you're on YouTube, please comment. We can see all your comments here. So if you can hear us and see us, or me specifically, at least right now, please let Jon and I know where you are watching from, because that's always fun to know. And we try to make these as much of a dialogue and as little monologue as possible. We have Jon here today, so it's already going to be a dialogue, but we'd both like to talk to you. So there you go. And let's see what else. So yeah, so let us know where you're watching from. You know, Jon and I know each other for a long time. We're not particularly close, but I've always respected everything that Jon has done from afar. In fact, you know, the biggest difference I ever made in a single company, which would be Agora, getting that $1 billion testimonial, is a function of me seeing what Jon had invented. So Jon will always hold a special place in my consulting history and positioning, because it was his technique that I saw that actually I brought over to Agora. And so, yeah, for those of you who don't know, Jon Benson, not only is he one of the top copywriters out there, he's also the inventor of the VSL, video sales letter. So if you've ever seen a PowerPoint that was a sales letter, you have Jon to blame. He's also been at the forefront, he's been at the forefront really of conversion. I mean, that you could take a look at a VSL as a breakthrough in direct response and recognizing where things were going. And just as past history is the best predictor of future history, right? Or past is the best predictor of future, that Jon's always kind of been a couple steps ahead. And he kind of took his whole company, and he'll give us all the details of it, but took his whole company several years ago and kind of focused on what was going to be next, and really diving down the rabbit trail of AI and how AI could be leveraged for copywriting. And I know we're going to be going into that somewhat on the webinar, especially, but Jon has always been ahead of the game. And so he's a great person he's a great person to pick his brain about what he sees coming in the future as it relates to conversion and copy and things of that nature. So that's enough foreplay. I'll bring Jon on as well. And let's see here, Jon, how do I do this? I think I should do it this way. There you go.
I look live.
There you are. You're live.
All right, cool. Hey, Rich.
Hey, so let me know, everyone, if you can hear Jon. So we'll know whether or not I'm the only one, or if you guys are benefiting from Jon's wonderful info. And
my wonderful mic that may or may not be working. I don't know.
Oh, wow. Okay. And I am now, I didn't know that we spelt your name wrong. Sorry about that, Jon.
It's all right.
Geez. Okay. So let's see here. Let's just dive into some of the comments, and then we'll just we'll wish everyone a hello, and then we can kind of dive in. Did you have anything like that you wanted to discuss today, Jon?
Copy in general is great, man. I'm okay. Good with whatever lead you want to take. I'll follow.
All right, cool.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. So Dan Kelly says this is going to be good. Thanks, Dan. And Samuel.
Now everybody's spelling my name wrong. All right, cool.
Yeah. I think because I spelled it wrong, I think now everyone's going to spell it wrong.
That's right.
John Winkleman says live. Awesome. Nina Clear says hello, checking in from outside Atlanta, Georgia. Hello, Nina. Isabella is in Germany.
Hi, Isabella.
And already a subscriber. Steal Our Winners. Dr. Vogelman in San Diego. Jason Bork in Tampa. Steal Our Winners was amazing. Thank you, Amber. I saw that you were messaging me, Amber, I think. If so, I will get back to you tonight. Murillo from Brazil, hello to you. And Matt Tarrant, hello. And Dr. Vogelman Coronado Island, yes, in San Diego. And good morning from Tahiti from Simon Disney. That's not a bad place to be, huh, John? Tahiti. Send link on the chat. Oh, okay, I think someone did. Hey, Dr. Bernard, good to see you in Vegas. And yes, Isabella is in Germany. And that's where you need to go, copypro.ai/Facebook live stream, all lowercase FB live stream, in order to register for the webinar that John and I are doing. Stefan, Rich is the best. Why? Thank you, Stefan. Ryan, what are you using to restream the feed? We are using StreamYard. So I recently switched from Ecamm to StreamYard, and the reason I did was that Ecamm only allows one output, whereas with StreamYard, I can go to all these different outputs in one place, right? Beverly Rose in the UK. Hey, Beverly, welcome. And Rachi Gonzalez in Orlando, and Faisal in South Florida. Good to see you, my man. And Matt in London, UK, and Ryan in Rotterdam, and Gabe in Steamboat, Colorado, and Sean Kemp is in the house. Hey, Sean, fellow copywriter. Stefan in Berlin, and Danny in Belgium. Wow. And Dr. Vogelman, I first met John at Buck, and he spelled your name right, at Buck Rizvi's event in Boulder. Very cool. And Ron Williams from Champaign, Illinois, and CV Villegas, 89. Christian from Spain. Very cool. And Justin Makepeace. A Makepeace is in the house. Close friends with his father, who passed away in the last year, as I know John was as well. Yeah, good to see you, Justin. Clay Franklin in Saratoga, California. GPS was the best thing I ever did to better myself. Well, thank you for saying that, Clay. Carlos in Venezuela. And I just lost where Carlos is here in the chat. Oh, there we go. Greetings, Carlos. And Hugo in Miami. Hugo, you got to go to that Geek Out event. I need to talk to you about that. Glenn in Highland Beach. Good to see you, Glenn. And Michelle Madison saying all good. Very cool. I'm a tech genius. Yeah, that's me. All right. You can hear us loud and clear. Great. Cool. What Apple event? Yeah, there's an Apple event going on right now, I think, isn't there? Loud and clear. Great. Cool. Can hear. And of course, guys, if you feel that we're delivering to you guys overwhelming value, please make sure to share and then let us know that you shared it in the chat. John, I'm still going to the Philippines for vacations. Are you?
Never been.
No, never been. Love John's work. Copy Pro AI is great. We use it almost daily. Very cool. Thank you, Martin. At least you didn't spell it one. Yep, that's true. Eric Weinstein in the house. Very cool. Eric Weinstein, an old friend of mine, also a former partner of Gary Halpert's, really one of the guys who is entrenched behind the scenes in the supplement world. Stephen Hawkins in Liverpool, UK. Good to see you, Steve. And thoughts on handwriting winning letters to learn copy. Yeah, that was a old piece of copywriting advice, huh? Yeah. Interested in what your thoughts are, John, on that. And as you're telling that, after you tell that, I'll tell you my perspective on it.
Well, I think the idea came up before the advent of computers and the advent of, having keyboards at our fingertips all the time. And for someone like me who literally can't, if I write a sentence, I'm going to be very lucky to read half of it. My handwriting is atrocious even to myself. So I literally have got notes from events that I can't read. So for me, it proved to be somewhat of an exercise in kind of a war of attrition to get through it for me. So I decided to opt for the occasional type out the sentences, since that is my modus operandi anyway, is the keyboard. So I'm doing the same thing that you would be doing psychologically by handwriting something. Granted, you're losing the tactile part a little bit, but not much. I don't think so. So I think it's a really good technique to use. I don't think it matters whether you do it through handwriting or through typing, though. Could be wrong, but
as far as so you would think that it's the same with typing?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I don't see any. I don't have any. In fact, I have a when I write by hand, I have a natural built-in aversion to it. So the process is automatically tainted because I don't want to do it. You know.
Yeah.
Well, my hands cramp and you know, it's just I suck at cursive. I suck at writing. I'm as far as like physically writing anything. So, you know.
Well, you know, I write in my journal almost every day, depending. Sometimes it is every day, sometimes not. But I did it once where I wrote out an individual sales letter, and it took me so long, and I really didn't feel like I got that much value out of it. There were a couple things that I did that I felt were much more valuable. So there was something I did to try and replace that, but then there were other things I did that I found really helpful. So what I did to replace that was I would take sales letters that I really, really liked. I would read them out loud, record it, then speed it up, and then listen to it over and over and over again. And I found that listening to it over and over again, I could then kind of take that kind of tone of voice, that, you know, that kind of style, just like I could learn the words to a song or something like that, right? So here's, like, I keep them, I haven't done it in a long time, but this one is like Dan Kennedy's, it was a sales letter for his at-home study wealth creation course. So let's see if you can hear it.
This could be the most important information you will ever read about wealth attraction and creating gigantic financial breakthroughs nearly overnight. Discover the little known and never talked about success philosophies, beliefs, thinking, and personal behaviors that allow millionaire and multimillionaire entrepreneurs to attract maximum money and create maximum wealth in record time. If you could change just a few things you think, change a few things about the way you do business, just a few, and suddenly experience a lifting of stress, struggle, anxiety, frustration, and uncertainty, accompanied by a much multiplied influx of cash, a multiplied influence with others, and accelerated accomplishment of your goals.
Well, the benefit to that is that if anything, it would teach you how to write faster. So
yeah, well, it would just like just by learning that, I could actually then copy that style. And then I found that actually taking probably what I did that surprised me at how effective it was to like actually learn, was take John Carlton's like bullets and rewrite them with as little editing as possible, for business. So try and maintain as much of the structure, try and maintain as many of the words as possible, but have it be now totally a business bullet, not a fighting bullet or a golf bullet.
Exactly.
And that, like, I don't know, it's kind of like working with someone else's language that was much better than me with a structure that was like kind of, you know, there, forcing me to kind of bend towards that structure and play with those words. I don't know, very helpful for me. Anything that you did like early on in your career that surprised you and how much you learned from it?
So I have a weird, I think I have a weird origin story. So, and it's one I openly state that no one should follow this path because I did it for my own reasons. And it wasn't, it just, I got lucky, to be honest with you. Because when I decided I wanted to be call myself a copywriter was 4 years into VSLs. And before then I was just, you know, your average fitness writer. I wrote a couple of, you know, very successful fitness books. The first one I had somebody else write the copy for because I didn't write copy at all. So I wasn't a copywriter when I started, and the second book wasn't doing well, and I didn't have the leverage and the luxury of having Tom Venuto write the copy for me. So I had to do it on my own, and I sucked at it. And it was only through that I came up with the idea of let's put because we were seeing the retentions that were just like 3%, 4% on the sales page. So I said, what if we could just force everyone to read the copy? That's how the idea came about. Is what if I could force everyone to read every word of the copy? Is there a way to do that? And we were playing around with, like, you know, at that time, I think, who was it? I want to say Kelly Felix or somebody like that came out with the click a button and read sections of the sales page, which was kind of clever. And I thought, you know, it'd be even better. What if we could break it down into every single paragraph? And that was the birth of the Ugly Video Sales Letter. And there was a guy doing PowerPoint kind of style video, sort of video sales, but it was really just a straight ahead PowerPoint presentation. So I didn't think that was that good of an idea. So I took that and created the Ugly VSL out of that, and then took my NLP training and used I used the red red and black, the infamous red and black. That's why they started. That's why they're almost always red and black. It's because that's the two colors that work the best in advertising, which is where I came from. And yeah, I kind of leaped over in there. Next thing you know, I'm getting paid a pretty good amount to write VSLs for people. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just happen to do it right for my own product. But my first letter was Truth About Abs, and that still is that still has never been beaten today. And that one's the one a lot of people think is the first VSL because it's got my voice on it. And
right.
And I did write it, but it was the second. And then it took off from there. So I kind of got thrown into the deep end of the pool of the copywriting world without having any formal training whatsoever in copywriting. I was a good writer as far as I was actually won Poet of the Year in 2006. So I've written structurally fairly well for most of my adult life, but that's, as you know, everyone knows that does copywriting. That's completely different. So yeah, I had to learn to break the rules and VSLs for whatever reason. I don't know how my brain clicked onto it, but it just got me out of the paragraph and into the sections. And that's what allowed me to become a pretty decent copywriter. And from there, I reverse engineered it and used it for sales pages, but I never took a copywriting course and never read a copywriting book until 2014, 15. So that's not how I recommend people going to this. Yeah. And I didn't want to do that not because I thought I was so great or anything, but because I did the same thing with as a musician, as you can probably tell behind me, I was a professional musician and I sucked at being a professional musician because I was a good player, but I was a lousy professional musician because I was always wanting to go study the next guy or become just a little bit better, and I ended up studying with one of the best bass players in the entire world at the time. And that still wasn't good enough. And I still had more practice to do. And I fell into that trap of constantly procrastinating, doing what actually needed to be done to be better, which is to freaking do it,
right.
Not to think about it, not to study it all the time. So I just made the conscientious decision when I started that, and this became no fun. So in the process, this became literally a tedious thing. So I thought, well, I don't want to screw that up again. So I'm just going to do it on my own. I'm not going to study anyone. I'll either suck completely or I'll come up with some unique style. And I came up with a unique style that's not unique in the biggest sense of the word, because I'm sure there are subconscious influences and stuff, but that's what I did. And I don't advise other people to do it because it probably wouldn't have worked if I wouldn't have gotten this VSL first. So there you go. There's the origin story.
And I'm glad you shared the story because I find that fascinating. But what I'm curious is, then what do you think, if you kind of just reflect back on your past, what do you think has contributed to you being good at writing copy that isn't isn't the fact that you studied NLP or something like that, something more random that most people would never think of, but in hindsight, and maybe you didn't either, but in hindsight, it actually did contribute a lot to your copywriting skills.
Yeah, it's the one thing I talk about actually quite a bit. This
really guitar,
lifting a guitar once a day with one hand. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, so being a musician is massively helpful for me because copy has a rhythm to it, and if you're keen on finding the rhythm to the words, like if I read off copy I've written, I can read it rhythmically, and you can hear that there's a certain pattern beneath the words that is repeating itself and going like this, right? And so that rhythm is super helpful to copy to create a hypnotic effect. So music is very intrinsic. I'm creating words here. It can create a trance. So maybe intrinsic is a word. Somebody Google that really quickly. But yeah, so it can create a trance. And so we use that trance-like effect in VSLs extremely well because there's a slide going by and another slide and another slide.
Right.
Well, on top of that, there's a rhythm underneath it, which is why I think that you need some help most people need some help with those kind of templates because we've already built the rhythms into it.
Right.
And John Carlton talks.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, right? Would you say that does all copy have a rhythm, or just copy that's good copy written by good copywriters has a rhythm? Because it's certainly when I read John Carlton's copy, it's obvious to me the rhythm. I can just reading it out loud causes the rhythm.
Exactly.
Right. But I wouldn't say that's always the case.
That's always the case with John Carlton. I don't know about, and certainly always the case with me, unless I've written something that sucks. Believe you me, I have. I can point you to those letters,
Right.
but the letters that are good all have a certain rhythm to them. And I'm not talking about every single slide, or it's
Right.
not some sort of pedantic thing that we try to just screw down every single slide. But there are patterns there. And then I do a lot of copy dissection, and people have asked me to, in fact, we just started a YouTube channel. We're going live with it here in 2 weeks that does that, where I'm going into talking philosophy of copy, so to say, and also doing tons of dissection of famous pieces and showing people this is where the rhythm is. Look at these words. These words were not accidental. And of course, my own pieces where I break them down and say, if you're wondering why I chose these words to capitalize, now you can see there's a sentence that it's formed. Things like that you're not going to see, but your subconscious mind is going to see, and that really helps to create a more persuasive copy. So yeah, I think that the better copywriters have a natural rhythm to themselves, and some of them have no idea. Like they're not musicians that just happen to write that way. But yeah, so music was definitely a big help. Yeah, I'd love to say that being such a fan of literature was a help, but it really wasn't. I have to tone when I get into storytelling. That is where being I grew up I did plays. Shakespeare is still I'm still a Shakespeare freak. So and studying that stuff and actually trying to do it in a play, which was a pretty bad event. I can do like soliloquies maybe, but whole plays definitely not. But that really helped a lot, because the way that especially Shakespeare, but other literary greats told stories, it's just such a great tool to have at your disposal. And you don't have to go to the highbrow stuff. I mean, John Clancy tells great stories, and in fact, there's an AI, as you know, that's built around John Clancy. I think it's, or John Grisham, or one of the two. I mean, I get them too confused, to be honest with you. But so storytelling, super important. So a good buddy of mine who's a copywriter, he wrote scripts for Hollywood scripts. So he took that into the copy, and that's really cool. So yeah, even you can just be a movie fan and just know a good story arc when you see one. So and apply that to copy really effectively.
Those are all good. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So let's
thesaurus.com. Guys, I give you a quick tip. I mean, this is no kidding here. Thesaurus.com, or there's better thesaurus tools, but let's go with that one for now, because and this is another John Carlton tip that he talked about that I just loved, and that's never repeat a verb. So if you go through like I write a lot in weight loss and you see burn fat, burn fat, burn fat, burn, you see it over and over and over again. And so I talk about juicy verbs. Like, what's a way you can say burn that is so juicy that you stop when you see the word? It almost shocks you. Like, so we changed burn to incinerate.
Right.
You can't unsee incinerate. You see the word and it's definitely stuck in your conscious mind for a brief second, but it's stuck in the subconscious mind too. And which is more powerful, right? So if you just keep saying burn, 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 right, it's not going to be nearly as powerful as changing that verb up. And John had a rule where it's like, if he repeated the verb, no matter how lame the verb was, because you do use lame verbs sometimes, like if you know, go now, go, you don't want to see, but you could change go to hop on over, jump right now, hop, what I'm using silly ones now, but you get the idea. So just that simple trick of how many times do you repeat a verb and changing it changes your copy, and it forces you also to come up with more clever verbs, and you can say, oh, I like this one a lot better, just change it all out. So
yeah, that reminds me of a tip that I'm not constantly, but every time like some good ideas like this are talked about, I'm reminded of this idea from Dan Kennedy that I've never done, but always I'm like, I really should do that. And his suggestion was keeping your own thesaurus for the phrases that you would have to use most often in your marketing because of, the niche or industry that you're in, right? Like, so like you and I, for example, like would benefit by having as many different ways as possible to say, make more money. Right. Like, and should kind of have an ongoing list for ourselves anytime we come across another good way of saying it, because we have to say it so often. And right. And so he was saying, like, develop your own thesaurus for the phrases that you have to, just have at your fingertips more frequently than any other phrases.
If only there was a software application that that stored those for you and even randomized them for you inside copy. Man, if only we had something like that.
If only. Maybe maybe there could be a webinar like in 2 hours or less.
Yeah,
that
with you
could
and
kind
me.
of go over that.
Yeah, let's do it. In case anyone is not sarcasm friendly, we definitely have that. So
very cool.
Yeah.
So we have a Facebook user from India saying hi. If you want us to know who you are, you got to go to StreamYard.com/Facebook, and another StreamYard user from San Francisco Bay. And I got to turn off my alerts, or these are going to be going on for a while. So there we go. And let's see. Put that.
I'm hopping off 1 second. Be right back.
All right. Aloha from Honolulu. Rich and John also spelt John correctly. Signed up. Cool, Amber. We'll see you then later on. Is John still going to the Philippines for vacation? He said he wasn't doing that. And where did I lose this now? All right. StreamYard makes it easy. Rich, you can live stream on LinkedIn now. Yep. I'm doing it as we speak. Eric in Copenhagen and Jeremiah.
Brother Jeremiah
from Chicago. And David, Rich, and John, where do you draw the line between taking inspiration of another marketer and blatantly copying? What would you say, John?
Well, the story I just told you is kind of a far-fetched way of saying I've never ripped off anyone, because I've never literally read another book until 2014, 2015. It's somewhere around in that area. I read Scientific Advertising, which I think I was one of the greatest in dead. So I think it's okay to rip him off. And I'm sure that we've ripped off people in passing since then, just not thinking about it. I can't remember a time where, and I would tell you if I did, where I consciously ripped off entire phrases, but I have ripped off structure. Like I would look at the structure of something and say, "Oh, that was really good." In fact, Copy Pro really is, it's legally and ethically ripped off, meaning we had over 50 guys from Ryan Dice to Todd Brown to, I could just keep going with some of the greatest copywriters in the world. So Angora, this from Angora, just giving us their templates going, yeah, we love you. Thanks for the VSL. You made us a lot of money here. Take what you want. And so we would take those templates and copy them and use them. And I've used like Jason Fladlin's webinar intro sequence for my own stuff forever after that. But of course, Jason knew that. So I think getting ideas for structure and getting ideas like Rich was saying, like taking John Carlton's bullets and translating them into business, I think that's completely fair game. I mean, that's how he learned it the same way. I mean, John didn't just come up with a way of writing killer bullets. He put his own genius into this, because he is a definitely genius copywriter. He's one of my favorites. But I'm sure he learned from Dan Ogilvy, right? So, we all have to learn from somebody. But I would never take, people have just ripped off my letters wholesale. Like literally, this is a magic jacket. I mean, they literally taking the pattern interrupt I used for the first VSL. I've seen that a dozen times. So I would never do something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't written that much copy overall, just as like a standard. And I would say that the only thing that's ever bothered me has been, because I've had a lot of stuff of mine knocked off. The only thing that's ever really bothered me is when people have knocked off my personal stories, thinking that my personal stories are part of the thing that made the thing work. And I'm like, no, that's just my life. Now you're like stealing my life stories. It's like in the beginning of the manifesto, I talk about this project that I have in 3 months with Agora, which that wasn't a tactic. I had a project with Agora like in 3 months from now. Like that's like just what was. So it's weird to see like people taking that and saying, I have this project, like in knockoffs, I have this project with this very large company in our space. Like, like that was weird, right? Like just, I've certainly, I get a lot of ideas from one area and bring them into another area, and I do that a lot. So I'm sure I've never had a problem though with like lifting too much on a copying standpoint from a marketing standpoint, primarily because I guess it becomes less likely too, the more like the stronger you are about your own positioning and where you want to be positioned as, like, do you know what I mean? Right. Like, as you're more, like, less is applicable to pull, like, wholeheartedly without major tweaking when you're clear about how you want your positioning and stuff like that, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, like a great example of this, like Rich was showing me, and we were on a call, about 3 weeks ago, and we're just doing, I think we were recording something, but at the end of it, we were talking about an idea that Kern had for doing, multiple upsells on an upsell. And I took that like that, because that's an idea that's a great idea. And then I found out that Phil Same had already built an into funnel. So, it's like, that's how but now I think in Russell is the king of, shall we say, role modeling. I'll put it that way. Russell is the king of that. And he's built a $1 billion enterprise by doing that and improving on it. And he certainly did it with his webinar formula, and he's outright spoke about it, right? And also just improved it so much, because Russell's done a lot, almost more than anyone I can think of, for marketers. Rich, Russell, Ryan Dice, those are on the top three. But so I mean, as long as you're doing it, there's an ethical way to do it, and you have to, of course, determine what those ethics are for yourself. I don't think there's never going to be a cancel culture on Jon Benson's end, at least. So, but I wouldn't do it for myself if it was ripping off entire paragraphs or things like that.
And I'm always flattered at the end of the day. Like, when something of my, like, it's like we did this mystery box, and I've seen it a bunch of places, and I'm like, when I see it now in a bunch of places, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, it just makes me feel like, okay, like I've done something else that's worthy of, like, I guess it's also different though, because I'm not a copywriter, so it's not like it's more like concepts that are being knocked off, which are not the same as like my specific words.
And I mean, if in the copywriting world, if you're an A-lister, and I don't necessarily like the way that makes me sound, but it is the truth. So I'm trying to speak truthfully without sounding like an arrogant ass. But if you're an A-lister, or if you're at the top of the copywriting food chain, and if you copy somebody else, it's going to get out like in a millisecond. If you're a B-lister down and you copy somebody else, it may get out later that you've done that. So you don't want to be blacklisted in your own industry. That's for sure. But also, I mean, I've had guys that are A-listers go, dude, I love this upsell that you wrote. Can I mirror it for another product? Now, so basically that's what Copy Pro does. So I'm like, of course. Yeah. And thank you for asking. So it's a great question, by the way. Great question.
Yeah, it is a good question. All right, let's continue on. So happy to be here, says McTonday, and he's going to join us later, and he's in Frederick, Maryland.
Awesome. Thanks.
And Tim from Colorado Springs. And hey guys, Max from Boynton, that's Florida. What up, Jon Benson, my brother from another mother, says Jeremiah. And Rich, can Jon talk more about the hook and headline formula?
Sure.
I don't know, Jon, can you?
I can. I created it, so I hope I can. I think that, and I didn't even know, by the way, this is how out of touch I am with it, basically everything, but definitely things inside my own company, that my team had set up that as an offer to when you join the webinar. I had no idea that was going on. I was like, oh, who thought of that? That was great. And I was reminded that I thought of that, and that, no, I don't have dementia. I actually got proof of that. So, but for a moment I had a senior moment, and although I'm not quite a senior, and I forgot all about it, but I did not forget what it is. So hook and headline is something I'm super passionate about, because it is the thing that you need, other than copy. Okay, so copy is the thing. I mean, without copy, you're just dead in the water. Across the board, unless you're selling. Even if I could make the argument, even if you're an e-com, you need copy. But unless you're just completely an e-com and you're selling pills that cure cancer, which I hope that you're not, then you need copy. So aside from copy, the first thing that you need, other than those words, is the big idea, and that's what the hook is. The hook is the big idea. And I was contracted in a non-financial way that became financial, that got unfinancialed by Agora, because I said to Joe Schrefer, the VP of Agora Financial, that I could come up with a way to teach someone how to develop a big idea. And he said, if you could do that, it'd be worth hundreds of millions of dollars to us. So if you can do that, please just let us know. And so I did, and I came up with this training. I did it on my own. And then I just totally forgot about the Gore deal until it was too late, but nonetheless. So I had to put it together myself, and I taught it at a mastermind when I was living in Malibu, and invited 40 copywriters in the room, and 20 or 40, can't remember. But and so it was high dollar mastermind. I said, okay, here's how I've come up with a way to create a hook. And I walked people through this, and that hook became a simple way to create a headline. So we kind of started playing with headlines first, and then from big ideas, not headlines just like, hey, here's 7 ways you can burn fat. I'm talking about like big idea headlines. And then how to create the big idea. It just became this really fun process of asking a lot of questions, Socratic method, narrowing down, using Google, and just being creative. So teaching you how to be creative is very difficult. And I think this is the best course I put together for doing this. And I'm going to put the course together inside of, it's inside of the Persuasion Mastery course right now, which is expensive. So we took it out of it and let you guys have it for, it's like, I forget what it is, like $150 or something like that, but it's completely worth the money, and it's all video training, and it's pretty intense. It's like, it'll walk you through how to do that. So that's pretty much what the hook and headline formula is about. But without a big idea, I think of it as a golden thread that runs through everything, through emails, blog posts, everything. You're really leaving money on the table. If you have a big idea, you step up to the next step. You can add a 0 to your bottom line with a big idea, and that's what I want to help you create. So that's what that is.
Very cool. And would you say that, I remember that you sent me a course, Persuasion Mastery. Yeah, cool. Mm-hmm. So it's in there?
Yeah, it's inside of that, yeah.
Cool.
It's inside of it. It's part of that. It's actually part of the bonuses, believe it or not. But it's also taken out and just sold by itself. And
got it.
It's within Persuasion Mastery.
Cool. All right. Already shared. You rock, Matt. Question for John. After writing great copy, where does he get traffic from to promote it? Well, that's kind of a bigger question, but go ahead if you feel.
I love the spellings of my names today. That was the most unique I've seen. That's awesome. So where do I get traffic? Well, so most of my copy that I've written obviously is for other people, so I don't worry about the traffic part of it. And honestly, I just stopped writing for anyone that doesn't drive at least $1 million a month in traffic, because it's just not worth I mean, a lot of what copywriters make is on residuals. So, you know, if somebody's wanting to pay you for copy, that's great. But if the residuals are, you know, $5.50 enough to buy a Starbucks coffee, it's not worth it. So, and when I didn't even go to a residual formula, this is how inane I am when it comes down to business running, to running a business of my own. I didn't even know about residuals until like 2015. So it's like, I was writing all this copy for like one-off money, because I just didn't want to. I didn't know anything about being a copywriter professionally or otherwise. I never took a course. And so I was just, oh yeah, the 25 grand to write a VSL, that sounds like a lot of money. I'll take it. And little did I know that that's, you know, bad. But yeah, so residuals were important. And I just stopped writing. In 2018, I stopped writing for other people, except for like 2 customers a year, or 2 people that I really like, or that's doing huge volume. And so that's the way it is right now. I'm running for 1 person a year usually. And it's either a big project that pays off big or whatever. So I don't have to worry about the traffic. For my own stuff, we have a built-in person on my team that is responsible for traffic, and traffic can be a bear. It really can. I don't want to minimize the problem. Like, oh, if you have a great copy, that solves a lot of traffic problems, but you still have to get around compliance. You still have to, you know, mess with the copy enough to where you can tweak it to where it's pulling enough. You have to know what your lifetime customer value is. Otherwise, you don't know if you're losing money or making money. So it's a process for sure. I think Rich is probably much better at that part than I am.
I mean, the way I like to kind of talk about it even is that there's never really a traffic problem. I mean, there are some exceptions to that, but in general, you either are able to extract more value from traffic from a visitor than the market has deemed that visitor to be worth. And if so, you never really have a traffic problem, or you're not able to extract more than what the marketplace has said that visitor is worth. And then you'll always have a traffic problem, because your business does not generate the same level of revenue from a visitor that others do and others are willing to spend on. So it's much more of a cart value, average order value, lifetime value issue than it is anything else, from my perspective. And greetings to you, Louis, in Mexico. And Samuel Proms, hello, Rich and John, and everyone else. Still spelling your name wrong because of me. Youngsters have no idea how to do cursive writing. It's like a secret code for us boomers and Gen Xers. Rich doing a fourth chipmunk with Alvin. I wonder what that's about. All right. Oh, that's, yeah, because the high speed, right? Okay.
Yeah, high speed, exactly.
Yeah, well, everything I listen to is high speed these days. They say there's a neurological connection in writing in general. However, I haven't written any sales letters, but we each learn differently under different modalities. Exactly. John, where did you learn copywriting? What books have impacted your copy the most? He already answered that, so that must have been asked before. The learning by doing method is the only way to go. That was brilliant, really good. Thank you so much. Wow, cool. How you can use music for copywriting?
Yeah, I wish I could explain that in an easy way, Isabella. And hi, Isabella. Yeah, I don't know other than to tell you that, especially from a guy who, I'm a bass player, so we naturally have good rhythm. It kind of comes from just having a rhythmic nature. So I tend to see things in patterns. That's how I created Copy Pro, is I'm seeing language in patterns. And the patterns, if you read music, if anyone reads music out there, you know that you're not reading one note at a time, unless it's like a bracketed 64th note triplets or something insane like that. You're not reading one note at a time. You're reading in a pattern. You just get used to reading music to the part where you see patterns. You can actually just let your fingers or whatever you're playing just kind of dictate it. And this is the same thing for copy. It's like there's a natural rhythm to things, and it's really hard to explain. So I wish I could teach it. I haven't figured out a way to teach that yet without first knowing the basics of rhythm and music. So I don't know.
But I would say, and tell me if I'm wrong, John, that at least one way to get started with it would be to read like copywriters' sales letters who have a very rhythmic way of writing, like a John Carlton. Read them out loud, and you'll start to see the staccato kind of rhythm that he writes into everything. And so I'd say that would be one way. Start if you can't really, if you read them in your head, you're not going to get the same benefit if you read them aloud, because it's that rhythm that is kind of external that you'll hear much more easily.
Reading aloud is massively important, by the way, which is, even if you don't write VSLs, which you should, if you don't have them, you should read your sales letters aloud, because you're going to get to so many more sticking points than if you're reading it to yourself. You need to read it aloud, enunciate it correctly, the whole 9 yards, because if you stumble over a sentence, chances are your customer or potential customer is going to stumble over that sentence, and your letter's out the window at that point. And you can also, you will hear, again, if your ear is used to hearing some sort of rhythm, you'll hear it. If not, and if you're not a musician, don't throw in the towel. Do what Rich said. Copy my swipes or John Carlton's, or Gary Benzavanga is really good at this too. I don't know if he's a musician or not, but that's basically what I would suggest doing. Yeah. Or, get Copy Pro and it's built in.
I'd also say that I forgot about this, but the thing that probably, one of the things that I did that improved my copywriting ability, surprisingly so, like when I was doing it, I kind of thought maybe this will, but in hindsight, it actually did a lot more than I even thought, was working on webinars, like taking a webinar of mine, taking the transcript, putting it in the notes section under each slide, and then working on like the best way to say every sentence that I still felt comfortable saying, like personally coming out of my mouth, like, because I'm not going to, reading a bunch of bullets sounds weird, so you have to kind of maneuver it to a very conversational kind of approach. And that forcing of me to write, a 2-hour thing of exactly what would come out of my mouth that sounds conversational, but is the best way of articulating something, I found to be really helpful and kind of forcing me to kind of, I don't know, write better.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great tip. And for webinars, we're about to do one. Webinars have that structure where you have to kind of divorce yourself where you are in a little bit of an acting mode to really pull it off to the extent that you need to for selling and for, conversions. But inside of that format is a lot of area for how honestly can I say this sentence? How, people can hear when you're saying something that is coming from a place, usually they can hear that is from integrity or from conviction, and the things that I honestly try to do in every single thing that I write and sell. So if that's coming across, you can be as salesy as you want to be. It's still going to resonate really, really well. But I know we're getting a little bit off the topic of rhythm here, but we're on a very important topic of authenticity.
Right.
So yeah, it's sometimes when you say something, if you are giving a speech about something, or if you're giving an impassioned speech about something you care a lot about, notice the way that you speak. Notice this great speeches from the most impassioned people you can think of. Martin Luther King leaps to mind, right?
Right.
A lot of the phrases are short, they're truncated, and you read a lot of great copy from the old days. Okay, the old days before Rich and I were even born. Yes, there was actually people alive back then, but those, back when you had nothing but say advertorials primarily, right? And they had 3 little bitty columns to work within, and so you get this copy written in these 3 little bitty columns. And so the copywriters would take advantage of that and use 1-word sentences, 2-word sentences. But when you read it, it sounds so like you can hear the conviction of the writer,
right?
Whether it's completely staged or whether it's completely real. So if you do that, it will naturally be rhythmical. Is what I'm saying. It will naturally be more rhythmical. It might not be completely rhythmical, but it will be certainly more rhythmical if you do that. And another tip here, Rich, is think in terms of how short can you make the sentence. One of the best ways to get your copy to a 4th grade reading level is just to look at the sentence and go, how short can I make that sentence? And you'll end up with sentences that are 3 words, 4 words, sometimes 1 word.
Yeah.
But when you read it, it sounds like, oh my gosh, I just can't wait to get to the next sentence. The idea of copy and the secret behind great copy is really simple. Every sentence makes you want to read the next sentence. I know that sounds completely lame and completely obvious, but it's completely true. Every sentence makes you want to read the next sentence. If you do that, you're gold. There's no way that you're not going to be, unless your offer is like $10 million or something, and it's ridiculous. Right? But so that's the secret to great copy. The secret to headline is simply to read the subheadline. That's it. That's really it. And now I add on top of that we can implant using a NLP technique called priming. We can implant an idea into the subconscious mind that is either a loop that's open or a hook that you just, again, a hook is a loop, but that is open in a sense. Or a priming specifically is when I'm using words or phrases that I want you to think about that relate to without directly saying what I'm talking about. This is great for pain relief. I mean, for example, if you're writing something in pain relief and you can't say pain relief, a way to do this is to use the word relief in every other context you can think of. What a relief that I found when I'm about to share with you. Oh my gosh. Well, that's priming because you're just saying it over and over again, right? So that's the other psychological, really ninja samurai is what I use. Samurai, because samurais are better than ninjas. Samurai level of doing headline writing where you're getting the subconscious mind all primed to absorb ideas and yeah, I'll misspell words. I'm very famous for doing this. Misspell words on purpose in a headline, and people say, "I bought your book, but you misspelled weight loss." I go, "Yeah, what word did you notice?" Yeah, this is all done on purpose. I mean, so so there's a lot of samurai tricks that you can use like that. But the first thing to do is get the basic structures down, and that's why Rich is talking about modeling people who have done this, and that's why I think, not to brag too terribly much, but Copy Pro is so epic because we've modeled 52 of the best guys in the world. So, and yeah, what better swipe file do you want? And it does exactly what Rich was talking about. Rather than taking bullets that were originally written for dog training, it spits it out written for e-com. I mean, or whatever. So it's a totally different industry. So yeah, it's really that was the idea. So
got it. Very cool. It's amazing. Love learning about Jon's background.
Thank you.
LOL. Sharing in my group. Thank you, Troy.
Thanks, Troy.
Makes sense about rhythm since the whole universe moves according to rhythm, says Jeremiah.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Thanks for doing this segment, says Matt, and great to see you live. What are the top 3 sales letters or VSLs that you would consider a commandment to break down?
Well, I've got my own preferences for that. I'll use one of mine just to be, I would say truth about abs. That's in almost every copywriter swipe file. That would be a good one. I would break down, I would look at, I can't remember the specific offer for Gundry. I don't remember the offer. Craig writes some fantastic VSLs. So definitely it's the one where he had the biker that came in with all the supplements and stuff like that. And he just look for the one with the biker. It's a cartoon of the biker. And I can't remember the brand. I just remember it was for Gundry. The other one would be Pandora's Box written through one of my software programs, but also through the genius of his name's Vin DiCarlo. His pen name's Vin DiCarlo.
He wrote a sales letter for me about a gazillion years ago.
Yeah. So those are the 3 that I would totally break down. I would add a 4th to that, and that's Chris Adod's Texture X-Pack.
That was
Chris
a good
is
one.
fabulous writer. Yeah. A very hairy person too. He's very hairy. Chris is very
And he likes to take topless photos too.
Yeah, he does. He's hairy and topless a lot. Yeah. He's a good guy, and he's a great writer, really smart dude. So.
All right, let's go to the next one. I was just writing those down for myself. Thanks for doing this. If only, where would we
find such a thing, Amber? I don't know. I think that was in reference to the Copy Pro sarcasm.
Got it. LinkedIn user from India. Cool.
Hey,
Prashant. Yeah, you see, it doesn't tell me how many people are watching from LinkedIn. It tells me how many are watching. Shared 3 times. Wow. Very cool, Dr. Rogan. Darpin from Dorset, UK. Very cool. Is this going to be recorded? It is recorded. It's being recorded right now. Tips to writing copy to get engineers to reply to industrial products.
Oh, wow. Sandy threw a curveball here. Industrial products to get engineers to reply. Well, first thing I would think of is engineers are by default, they're going to be less emotive based people. They're going to be more logical based people. So I would definitely trigger facts and data. I would go in the facts and data and make it compelling to the point of saying, I mean, I know how I would approach it. I don't know anything about the topic, so I might be completely talking out of my ass here. But I would start by saying, like, what if I was to tell you there was one X, whatever that X may be, one industrial solvent that is that you have to use in place of all other industrial solvents. I mean, I'm sure the engineers don't care about this, but I'm making this up anyway. So let me logically prove this to you. Okay, case point number 1, this happened. And then you could use stories of how this happened. Case number 1, story Y, it proved X. Okay, so this proves X. Case number 2, story B, this proves Z. And just so I would do a story, this proves X. Story, this proves Y. Story, this proves Z. Unless you're a moron, you need to buy this. So there you go. That's the rough structure I would use. Probably not the moron part, but I have said that I said you'd have to be a moron not to buy this, but that was for my own product in copywriting space, and people know I can get by with saying stuff like that. So, and believe, I think I said you have to be an effing moron, and I just don't know about the censorship here on YouTube, so, or on Facebook or on LinkedIn. So, but
yeah, it's too many to even keep track of.
Yeah.
So Davey Paul says, wanted to pass on something that helped on Rich is universally known. Steal our winners. John was on one, assuming it's the same Jon Benson. Issue sharing a high converting upsells. Although I didn't get his high 70% conversions, it definitely increased just sharing the love. So very cool, Davey. And
or rock and roll, depending on where you're at.
So how is that? How do you pronounce that? Do you know, John? Is it
no idea? I'd say
Paulo, but
I'd say Paulo, but that's my guess.
Yeah. Well, greetings right back at you in Brazil.
Hello from Brazil. Hello from here.
Eric Weinstein. Carlton took a lot from Gary. Yeah, for sure. My daughter. Hey, Ava. Good to see you. That's up in Syracuse University. How can anybody believe that stealing your life stories makes for good copy? Don't know.
Yeah.
But they do. In fact, Halbert once said the greatest copywriter in the world is Xerox.
That's like something Gary would have said.
Picasso
I never
said,
met him, but I've heard stories. So,
yep. Such great insights from both you guys. Thank you so much. Russell, the king of modeling Brunson. Rich, we did a mystery box upsell on page challenge modeled after what you did. Yep. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I actually saw Dave Asbury do it, and Frank Kerner's done it, and very cool. Hi, Rich. I would like to get your Steal Our Winners program, but I need help to answer some questions. Where is the support email which I can contact you? Just go to strategicprofits.com. I think there should be a link there to customer support. So that would be my answer there. Side note to clarify, not saying to steal, but check it out. Cool. Joining in late, has John already been a guest in one of the Steal Our Winners issues? Yes, he's in the current Steal Our Winners issue.
Yes.
Where should we look for your future videos in which you will be analyzed? Yeah, what will be the name of that channel on YouTube, John?
Jon Benson Sales Copy Secrets.
And is it already up there?
I think the raw channel is up there, but we haven't started uploading videos because they're still in production. But they'll be starting uploading in next week, I believe. So.
And then what will you be uploading, like one a week, or
I'm gonna try to do 3 a week. Wow, I got this set up here. We're trying to get it right, and we're trying to make it to where I'll use it because this is like a 4K webcam that I'm using.
Right.
So with 2 lights, so it's not like a big thing, right? But yeah, we're gonna try that so I can just flip the camera on and then send it off to the production guys. So that's the goal.
Very cool. You'll have to hit me up when you got the first one out, because then we can send it out for you. Thank you. There's another spelling of John. What are your thoughts about using NLP techniques as part of the copywriting process?
Well, I teach it, so I'm a big fan, and I'm a big fan of it as a tool, not as the only thing that you use. I use it as I definitely use it less in structure and more of a tool. I don't do any timeline stuff, except for I'll do things like future pacing and things like that, but I primarily use NLP for command terms, for embedded commands, a lot through there, open loops, obviously. And yeah, so the basics are great. I just wouldn't get wrapped up in all the nuanced specifics. I mean, a guy like Harlan Kielstein can tell you a lot more about NLP than I can. I did study it, and I studied in college. I studied under a guy that studied with Bandler, but I didn't do it formally. I just did it because I was interested in it, but I picked it up enough to be fairly persuasive.
How long does it take you to write good copy?
It depends on how long the copy is. I kind of have a weird, stupid human trick, and that's that I have an ability to write incredibly fast. And so the most successful sales pages I've written were written in under a day without edits. Now, that's not something, again, that I would ever say anyone should do. But for whatever reason, if I'm in a flow and I have the idea in my head, I can write in yeah, I mean, I wrote Truth About Abs in 6 hours, and I wrote Old School New Body in 7, and I wrote all of Ryan. Well, his name's Vin DeCarlo's. All of Vin DeCarlo's, the ones I wrote for Vin, those were written while I flew up to New York for a day. I wrote in a full day there, and I flew back. So. And that's not to brag, because in all honesty, and then being completely transparent here, I think I would be a much better copywriter than I am if I had the editing skills / patience of Chris, or of definitely of I think of a guy named Jon is one guy I could think of. He's really good at this. Mark Stockman, who owns Metabolic Sherpa, is a freaking awesome editor. And yeah, our homeboy over at Golden Hippo, I mean, Craig is just not only a great writer, he's a fantastic editor. So if I had their patience, which I don't, I could be better at it than I am. So I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to have to craft perfection or anything. So I usually just do one pass and send it off. So I can write fairly fast. But so that being said, that's not normal. And if you get the idea, you should get into a free flow state. I teach people how to get into a flow state, how you can write through yourself. I know it sounds a little bit woo-woo, and I'm not a woo-woo person at all, but you're literally writing as a character, and you're kind of seeing the keyboard from the other side of your brain. You're looking through yourself. you're not yourself, even if you're writing as yourself. So, and when I write as myself, I am writing as the absolute best Jon in the world, like better than Jon ever has been. I'm writing from a position of, or if I'm writing a dark part of it, I'm writing from the most broken, right? And that doesn't mean that I'm lying at all. What it means, I'm in the state of mind where I have zero doubt, zero neuroses. I'm writing from what I call the Nietzschean Superman position of myself. So it's a character of me playing me. If I'm writing, and I'm the person as a subject, if I'm writing as a character, it's a lot easier. I just put myself like an actor would do, put himself into a character role and but I'm writing through myself. I don't let myself get in the way of it. And that speeds up the writing process a lot, if you can write through yourself.
Yeah, I could totally see that. I'm reminded of, I think it was a Gary Bencivenga quote. Said I could write faster than anyone that writes better, and I can write better than anyone that writes faster.
Yeah.
You know, it's so kind of the amount of time you put into it is going to determine the output to some extent. You know, everything else being equal. You know, it's funny because totally like agree with everything that you said, and I'm reminded of The Alter Ego, his book, The Alter Ego.
The Alter Ego, don't know.
Yeah, so Todd Herman is a really cool guy, works with NFL teams and sport teams as like a performance coach, wrote a book called The Alter Ego. He's in our space as well. And The Alter Ego is all about how most professional athletes actually have a specific ego, a specific persona that they take on when they take the field. And so this is all about that and how to really kind of establish that character for your own performance, for like when it's go time, when it's game time, when it's whatever. It's called The Alter Ego. Cool. Yeah. So it sounds very much like that. And I've certainly kind of tried to, at least at certain times, take on certain characters or kind of write in a disassociated way, like kind of behind myself. So totally get it. Cool. Davey Paul, I didn't understand your question, so I'm passing it. If you want to ask it again in a different way, by all means do. Moreno saying hi. Well, hi back to you, Moreno. And Deb says, this is great. Thank you. Johnny says, thank you for all your insights. Great conversation. Davey said, yes, last month. As a French horn player, I now have a greater appreciation for Jon's rhythmic copywriting perspective. Dan Kennedy and folks at GKIC state that the best copywriters are also great at selling. Are there any other attributes that are common among good copywriters that you have found? Well, we said storytelling. Anything else there, Jon?
A lot of, I hate to say it, but a lot of great copywriters are somewhat morose. And they, you know, I think that there's some degree, it's sort of the same thing with musicians as well, where there's a degree of not only healthy, from a healthy perspective, it's self-deprecation. From an unhealthy perspective, it's self-hatred or abuse or whatever, where there's some degree of you're being a little dark sometimes. And fortunately, I don't have the self-hatred or abuse too terribly much, but I've gone through that in my life for sure. And coming out of the other end of it is much healthier. But most musicians say they write in a place where they are in a place of despair or depression or whatever, better than they write when they're in a state of happiness. I find that was true for how I wrote copy as well. If I was, I wrote some of the best copy when I was hurting the most. I don't want to put myself in that state to do it though. So it's just not worth it. And so therefore I use the character state, and I can use the worst of the character at the worst times and the best of the character at the best times. And I don't have to change my personal state to do it. So that would be one thing I would say as a character trait. A lot of copywriters that I've met are that I've been very fortunate here. I've never been addicted to anything, but they are somewhat addictive personalities. And, so that's part of it. I think part of the psychology of it, but I'm sure there's somebody who's made up a psychological framework for what makes a great copywriter. And I probably don't fit into all those categories. I hope I don't.
Yeah, I would say, we did do a bunch at Agora, but that would be specific to an Agora copywriter. the number one like personality driver there, and I'm not sure it applies everywhere, but like I said, was competitiveness. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, competitiveness.
I would never have thought that. I mean, I
and
grew up
really
in athletics. I grew up, but all the sports I did were self-competitive. So I'm very self-competitive, meaning I want to better myself and all that stuff. But I'm very rarely competitive with somebody.
Yeah, but I'm not very competitive either. And yet, like, you know who Mike Palmer is, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So Mike Palmer was the copy chief for Stansberry, and he seems like a very mild-mannered guy. He's very kind of quiet, like kind of low-key. And we're in Nicaragua together, and I think it was like the Argent. I think like our Agora partners in Argentina, like they were going to play a game of doubles with Mike, and he was looking for a fourth. And you know, a long time ago, I was ranked as a teen in tennis. So
cool.
He asked me if I wanted to play with him, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll play. And I thought it was just going to be like a fun, like kind of game. And like, I was very wrong. Like Mike was like strategizing like this was not a fun game at all. We were there to win and only win. And I was like, oh shit. Like, and yeah, definitely at Agora, most of the guys were extremely competitive as a driver.
It's really weird. So the thing that I get outside of, copywriting when I go to conventions and I go to hang out is, and this is coming from the years of bodybuilding, people are like, oh, can I go work out with you? And I had the same exact feedback, the same exact feeling from people who we'd go to the gym and, like, I thought it was gonna be like, here, I'll show you some stuff, or right. I can, and people are like that. They're like, hey, can you show me how to do X, Y, or Z? But no, it's like so we're gonna do bench press today. It's like, and they're like, I outweigh them by 50 pounds or whatever, and they're trying to bench press, 250 pounds or something. It's just like, dude, you don't have to do this. Stop. It's like 16 reps pass failure kind of stuff. Like, I just have zero part of it. Like, I don't care if somebody's strong. I don't care less, right? And so yeah, I do see that, but I've never seen it in sports like that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's highly competitive, but yes. Yeah. I've been in direct response since ads were etched into cave walls. It's immensely educational and pleasurable watching you two work together. Well, thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Eric. And a great sentence, by the way. Good copy there, Eric.
Yeah. This point of conversational was fairly large. Aha moment for me. Cool. My writing ability got much better as my speaking ability improved.
I can see that.
Yeah, such a relief. Samurais over ninjas.
Yep.
Asma in Egypt saying hello on YouTube. Samurai are better than ninjas.
Absolutely.
Matt, hey, John, is it possible for you to elaborate a little on inbox overload fear? If it's a little off topic, please ignore me. But right now I have a sales email, which I think is great and good to go, but I'm keen to know how to utilize it in the most productive way in terms of frequency when sending it to prospects.
Yeah. So there's I believe what he's referring to, inbox overload, is simply there's a deluge of offers coming on. You're kind of inundated with offers, and how do you stand out from the inbox noise? And I've talked a lot about that. Like, how do you get your emails to stand out? And wrote a book about it. So the the trick to this, I think, is to compartmentalize your list. So you send the people on your list, you've got like these segments, right? Even if they're not segmented, if you haven't got them segmented, they are there. The super hot list, which is they're going to open any email that you send. They're going to buy anything that you sell. Don't we wish that was 30% of our list, but it isn't usually. So it's usually like 2 or 3%. And then from there, you got people who they're fans and they're going to open some things and not others. And you kind of tear down, right? So I always like to get the fans out of the way first, the people that are just going to buy anything. So you can send a blind email to say, I think I've created the best way to do X I've ever created. I put tons of work into this. I'd love to give it to you. Link, so right. So you're going to get people to click on that. especially if you use like a Dean Jackson subject line, which is just the first name of the person. It's almost impossible not to open that subject line. That's a Dean Jackson trick. If you have, that's why I highly recommend, by the way, people that say only collect email addresses and not first name and email addresses. Big mistake. And I can tell you why it's a big mistake as I open my period. It's a big mistake because you can't personalize shit. You're going to be stuck with just like calling people "Hey you" for the rest of your life. I don't care that it does increase opt-ins by about 10, 11% sometimes, but who cares? Because it's going to decrease sales over time. It's going to decrease sales over time because you can't use this. The simple tip that I just showed you. You can't use that. Now, granted, they may fill in like, Goober is their first name. And so for the rest of their lives, they're going to be known as Goober. That's their mistake, but take advantage of it. So that's a great way to cut through the inbox, because I mean, if you read in your inbox and somebody says John or Chris or, Rich or whomever, it's going to get opened because you just don't know if it's a personal email or not. It's like, it's going to stand out. So using tips like that to make it stand out of the inbox. If you use that every single email, obviously it will never work. If you use it once in a blue moon, it'll work really well. Another way to get over that inbox fatigue that we're talking about is making subject lines that are not after the first one, after this one, that are like, just straight out spells out what you're talking about. It's just try this as a ballsy move. I'm selling a new book that teaches you how to blank interested question. I mean, so you get this long subject line. Like, now just think about the psychology of that though. I'm selling this new book that teaches you how to lose weight and lose 30 pounds in 30 days. Interested? Okay. Well, the moment they click that, for a fact that they're either just randomly scrolling through and clicking things, or they're going to be a high interest buyer, meaning that if they click that link, for sure that's going to be someone that's probably more apt to buy. So these are just two. I could go on and on. It's a long topic, but open click buy, go to Amazon and pick that up. That's the book on that. And it's also pretty funny. It's kind of a comedy marketing book. It's kind of weird, as you'll see, but it's like cram full of tips on how to make emails better. And I make fun of Justin Bieber and monkeys a lot. So have fun with it. You're welcome.
And I think the moral there is like, ideally, right? Like, you want to hit someone from as many different angles as you can until whether they've actually clicked forward to actually go to the page that you're trying to get them to or whatnot.
Yeah.
And, there's no reason to be sending the same exact message over and over again. If they didn't click on it the first time, we can do better than that.
Right.
So, totally agree. All right. No, you're not too late, Asma. Who's our guest? The infamous Jon Benson, solving your solvent problem since 1929. Okay.
Let's get back to the engineering bit, because
yes. Thanks, John. Good ideas. I'm doing a blog on how to be good in writing. What should I follow to learn from any books that are best to begin with? We talked about that, Asma, so that you could just go into the replay as far as Can anyone share John's channel and comments? What was the name of the channel again?
Jon Benson, JONBENSON, and Sales Copy Secrets.
Got it. I'm curious how John and Rich feel about that. We'll talk about on the webinar.
Yeah, I can just let me, if I can, Rich, just briefly touch on this. So Copy Pro started this whole stuff with AI, but we started it in a totally different way, meaning AI is based on patterns and completely based on patterns. So what OpenAI and Conversion AI and other AI tools are doing is when you type in a keyword, they're going out and scraping the internet 85% of the time. So you're just getting a paragraph here and a paragraph here and a paragraph here. And sometimes it comes out pretty good. Sometimes it comes out total gibberish. And also much more importantly than coming out good is the fact that you have wiped an entire paragraph from an existing website that you don't know, and the AI has no way of knowing whether that paragraph is copyrighted or not, meaning that you could be in serious legal trouble. So while the technology is pretty cool, and certainly there's this, I'm not going to go into boring details of what AI is, but the source code underneath it, the AI platform that we are using as well is what OpenAI, and we are actually a part of OpenAI, is using, but we're using it in a really constrained control way. And we started without using artificial intelligence by using human intelligence because that's what it takes. But now our AI is going to look internally, and it's going to build things in a structure that we've created and we patented, by the way, that is just a different way of doing things. So it's constrained AI, and it doesn't just spit out garbage because it's completely constrained within certain parameters of field. So without boring you to tears, that's what the future, I think, of AI is. I posted that a couple of days ago on Facebook, and we are implementing that version of Copy Pro to come out in March. So, in May, excuse me. So I'm going to say this right here in May for that version, in July for the full 2 version. But yeah, anyone that gets in now is going to be so far ahead of the curve. It's ridiculous. It's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool.
And we'll be talking a lot more about that on the webinar that is you can get registered for, which is tonight or in an hour from now, actually. All right. So let's see. Raquel says, thank you for answering that. I totally get it. You definitely gave me clarity. I can write through myself without thinking, and it just flows. I get into a trance-like state, and I didn't know if that was a normal way of writing, LOL. So I totally understand and appreciate your response so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Creative people often tap into the power of the dark side.
Yeah, it's true.
Character state for the win. Okay, so just thoughts on launching with multiple products or offers, or staying with the one per, which has been my norm. He's just talking. Yeah, Davey. I would generally stick to one product per launch unless there was something that, one product at a time. Let me put it that way. A really smart way to kind of look at your launches, though, would be to start from from a descension model. You would start with the most expensive product. That would be the first of the launch. Then several days later, after you've already taken the most that you could from that offer, I would offer some version that is less than for also a price that is less than. And then you would clean up with the lowest offer that you could behind it. But that would be the way that I would think about it, Davey. Can't believe Jon is here. Such a pleasure to listen to this guy. Thanks for inviting him.
Thank you, Emmy.
That's from Emmy. And Jon, both of my grandfathers were ministers. My granny was an evangelist, and they believe in taking you to church. They just believed what comes from the heart reaches the heart. That's been my best copywriting guide. To me, the best copywriters appear to do just that.
Yep.
Every time I follow you, Rich, I know how wonderful people and topics not have before. Thanks a lot for making this stream. My pleasure. Any tips for getting higher click-through rates? My email open is all right, but almost no one clicks on the call to action, even when I tell them there's a free gift.
Yeah, and Giancarlo, I'm going to give you this. Even if you don't get open click buy, which would be a mistake, you should get open click buy, because this is one of the tips in the book, and it's going to sound really painfully obvious when I tell it to you, but it's one that I started teaching and it's got caught on, and I just figured it was kind of common sense, but it isn't. It isn't. So here's the deal. They opened your subject line, right? So use your exact subject line word for word as your first link text. Yeah, they just clicked on it.
There you go. I like that.
Again, they're already interested.
Yeah.
So yeah,
makes total sense.
Yeah.
Never heard it before, but makes total sense.
Yeah.
And did you say Vin DiCarlo or Vin Montello?
Well, I know both of them. Vin DiCarlo is the pen name of the guy who wrote Pandora's Box.
Oh, okay. So Vin Montello is the copywriter that I thought you said. And
no, Vin Montello is a good guy. He's a good copywriter. I know him. I've met him once, and we've talked a lot on Facebook. So
got it.
Yeah.
Good
copywriter. Yeah, good copywriter.
Open Click Buy. Yep, that's the book.
What a name, right?
Thanks. Yeah. I wonder what it's about. And what have you recently invested in learning at your level?
I don't know if that was to Richard or myself or to both of us. Invested in learning is a great way to phrase that. What have I invested in learning recently? I know this is going to sound, oh man, this is making me look like a total dick. Yeah, I'm thinking like specifically related to this industry. What have I invested in?
It doesn't have to be.
I was going to say, my investments every year are usually Genius Network, Joe Polish, Genius Network. So that's 25 grand a year, and traffic conversions. And I'm an introvert, so I don't like to get out that often. So that's what I do for that. And I would love to tell you that I have time in the day, or that I will make time in the day is more specifically accurate, to like at this stage at learning more copywriting. I just don't. I spend all my time when I'm at work building the software and creating something it's just never been created before. So I don't have time at this point in my space to learn something new. I do, if I wanted to work the way I used to work when I was in my 30s and 40s, when I worked 16, 18 hours a day and stuff like that. I don't do that anymore. So I'll work 6 hours a day, and I worked 9 hours yesterday, which is rare. And I don't mind doing that. I love working. I work 7 days a week. I'm on a vacation a year. So this is like just my life. Right. But at some point I was like, now I can, just, I don't feel bad if it's 5 o'clock and I'm chilling out, watching videos or hanging out with the girl, or, and this is aside, my workout times are inside the day. So it's like, I've got that tucked away in a place where no one can touch it. And so this is like meaning nothing going on. I'm having a glass of wine, hanging out with my friends. I'd much rather be doing that than trying to learn more about business. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't need to. So Danielle, let me say that I completely do need to. I'm very well aware of how much I don't know, and also like how much I suck at certain things. But it's just like there's so much mental energy that goes into creating what we've created with Copy Pro and what the members of Copy Pro are going to get inside the second version. It's never been done before. So it's never been done before. And it's so hard to create something that's never been done before. It takes a lot of mental energy. So, and to do that, I just decided, my health and my peace of mind is more important than just continually learning. But after this is over with, then I have some ideas for sure on investing. And it will be, guess what? It's going to be in learning a second language, because I suck at the two languages I try to speak. And so I would like to be better at that. And I'm considering a move to Puerto Rico, so it'd be Spanish.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would say that, there's, and I haven't really thought about this, so I'm thinking out loud here, but there are different modes of learning. Sometimes you are spending a lot of time going external and bringing stuff like kind of in, but there are other times when you already kind of have enough going on externally and you have to focus on internal stuff that is also you're learning as you're doing stuff, but it's much more so you're learning by doing and actually taking something further than it's been before. And I'd say that along those lines, like I'm in the same boat as you, John, that the way I look at it is that I spend a lot of my time these days talking to people for Steal Our Winners, and I'm learning all the time. I'm talking to people, but I'm spending a lot of time learning how to right now, like how to extract more value out of those interviews, not just like how to do those interviews better, which is certainly part of it, but then also like with that raw material after the interview is done, what can be done with that? What are the patterns that led someone to that thought? Like really actually going deeper into what someone's already provided me so that I can kind of expand the product more by understanding like what might not be obvious on the surface, but with deeper reads can kind of like see things that are very useful that can be taken out. So I'd say that, I'm learning a lot right now, but it's not on anything that it's taking all the things that I'm already doing and trying to do them better, understand them deeper, as opposed to something like a goal just completely outside related.
Yeah. And Daniel, if anything, I think that I have a lot of different hobbies. So for all of 2020, because of the pandemic, I was spending almost 3 or 4 hours a day playing music. And, I started a YouTube channel for bass covers and I just started doing that for fun. And that was fun. So but that's another method of learning. It's not learning copy or marketing at all, but you're to memorize very complex pieces of music, which is what I like to play. That's a way of exercising the brain. So my brain gets like stimulated probably too much during the day. And so I kind of want to get away from it. And so turn off. I need to work on actually turning off more than turning on more. So, but there's a lot I want to learn, but yeah, it's too much right now. So.
Yeah, I find, but it's funny. Like I think what you were saying there, if I got it, is that, at least what I heard is that for me, it's the same. Like it can be very enjoyable at times to have hobbies that use my body and hands that do not need my brain whatsoever. Just because it's a total reprieve from what I'm normally doing, which is not using my body at all and using my head a lot. So,
right. Yeah. Well, and so music's both, and that's the problem. It's
right.
There's less physical, but there is a physical, tactile issue of trying to get something underneath your fingers. But, and I grew up in martial arts and kickboxing. So I used to go spar a lot until I had my teeth kicked out. And that was, that knocked out rather. Yeah, that's kind of like that put an end to, unfortunately it wasn't put an end to my sparring days, but so I was thinking about going back to jiu-jitsu and doing that, but it's again, that's just beating the shit out of yourself, and on top of bodybuilding and training for fitness stuff, it's like it's too much. It's like you just can't do it all. So you have to make those kind of calls, right? You just have to figure out just life's too short. You got to figure out what you're going to focus on.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Rich, Jon, Rich, could you speak to the idea of how do you know when you have a truly great big idea that you are developing out?
Well, if in reference to the hook and headline formula, where I talk about how to create one, you don't know it until you test it. That's the big thing. And I would test it in email subject lines and seeing how well your open rates are. You can test it by buying traffic to an article and things of that nature. So you may think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread and no one else does, or you may think it sucks. And I've seen this happen too, by the way, and everyone else loves it. I keep using the End of America VSL that Mike wrote.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I first saw it, I thought it was terrible. I did. I told Mike this. I go, nothing personal, but that had to be the most boring VSL. And I clearly admitting my bias that it's I'm just completely turned off by anything financial. So I don't care. And much to the chagrin of my father, who was in traded stocks and stuff. So, so I was thinking, well, maybe it's because I'm not interested in it. But then I started just looking at just from a copywriting angle. I was like, I just don't get it. I mean, Porter's voice has got to be the voice you would listen to if you want to be bored to tears. And but boy, was I ever wrong. I mean, that was clearly the hook was completely off the charts, and that did like $100 million or whatever. So yeah, you got to test it. You have to test it. And at that point, you just got to go, well, whatever he wrote, man, was genius, because it definitely worked. And so, yeah. And so same thing with your big idea.
Yeah. And I would say that, wouldn't disagree with anything that you just said, but I would add that 90% of the time you kind of just know, you can be wrong, but like, if you think it totally sucks, odds are probably does. It doesn't mean that every once in a while you can't be surprised, but when you're working on a big idea yourself, like you kind of just have a feeling of whether you've got it nailed or not, like based on how excited you are to share it with others, how easily they get it or want to know more, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Hugo wanted to, sorry, I didn't get the advice on the subject line. Use it where Jon was saying that if you get a lot of people to open your emails, but you don't get a lot of people to click on your emails, use the same subject line that got them to open the email to then get them to click on it. That should be the first link. That's what Jon said. In a VSL for SaaS, Avinash asks, should you focus on explaining features or focus only on emotional appeals or problem it solves?
Yeah, no one gives a shit about the features. I mean, we're all the bottom of the end of the day. We're all just emotive creatures, right? We're in different, even with the engineers, I started off with an emotive thing, so there's more logic in the engineer kind of thing than there would be to the normal person. When I say, I'm not saying engineers are not normal people, but to the masses. But yeah, if you have a SaaS, and I have two of them, so I can speak from experience here. You definitely want to talk to the user about the fears and problems and complaints that they have, as well as the solutions that are possible. Wouldn't it be wonderful if this happened? These are all emotive things, right? How would you feel if you woke up in the morning and you knew that every word of the copy that you need to write for that promo was done for you in a blink of an eye? Would that make you happy? Well, there's a software.
I like that latter one more.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's how I'm approaching copy for, yeah. I still remember, and this must mean that's pretty decent copy. I still remember the very first, the video that we have on the Copy Pro homepage that says, it's just an animated video. But it starts with your business depends on words that sell, words that inspire, words that engage. So your business depends on this. It's like, well, that's extremely fear-based. It doesn't sound fear-based because there's just like little cheery music going on in the background and this guy's drawing these silly little things, but it is. And so I don't sit there and go, Copy Pro has an amazing regeneration AI technology that blah, blah, blah. I mean, because no one cares. No one cares. And where I catch myself talking about it, I just go, eh. Now, here's where they care. They care after you've sold them on the pain point that they have, after you've validated that pain point, after you've said, hey, how would you like an alternative to that? Then if you say introducing Name of SaaS solves all these problems. So you have to tie it down. It solves this. So you never have to do this. It solves this. So you never have to do this. Imagine think about it. I'm just going back and forth. Hook. That's just nothing more than what's called a push pull, going back and forth between a push pull, and say, and here's how it solves it. It solves it with a blank, and so, yeah, it's like, gosh, I'm getting 1 second here, guys. I'm getting
so while you're looking at that, what I'll say is that, that I would say the same thing. And I had this story of a client that I had a long time ago, who had a webinar, and they sold like some kind of trading strategy, some stock financial trading strategy. They had kind of a black box kind of thing, and they sold by webinar, and the guy had like just 2 employees, had like a $6 million a year business that made all its sales through webinars or something to that effect. And the webinar was a very straight, like more factual, logical based sale. And he then started studying like persuasion type stuff and webinar selling and things of that nature, and really changed it much more to the emotional kind of sale. And conversion rates on the webinar went up like 300%. But I'd say that, refund rates also went up 300%. So he's still way ahead of the game. Maybe it even went up 500% or 700%, still way ahead of the game. It didn't matter. But asked me what he could do about it. And I said, well, one thing that we could try, and it was just like a throwaway piece of advice, but it ended up working, was I said, why not take your original webinar, cut out the pitch part, make people watch that, like make that the first video in once they get into the platform, because now, like, they've already been sold emotionally, now sell them logically, after they've already been, process the payment, everything else, like, and that actually worked really well. So just a thought there on that. Giancarlo thinks you should move to Thailand. That you'd enjoy it more than Mexico. Hey, copy got my attention, my first. Okay. Learn another language is so powerful. By learning English language, for example, that opened my mind and my eyes for another world that extend our lives for better things and new habits. Very cool, Ozma. Jeremiah, Jon Benson, you're an artist. It just appears you are a doer. It's like the best artists do when you're saying they do versus study. I learned how to become a good painter by painting. You're just borrowing your influences, John, and adding them to what you're doing. Learning by doing is the life of an artist. Jeff Bezos calls it invent and wander in his new book.
Thank
you. Very cool, Jeremiah. I would agree with all that. It sounds like John does too. Turning off a creative brain is very challenging. This is true. Okay, got that. Yep. So anything, John, like, I know that you got to go in what, like 12 minutes?
I've got to go in 12 minutes. Yeah.
Anything that you want to make sure to say before you have to jet?
Well, first of all, I thank you for allowing me to come on here and hang out with you guys. I really appreciate it and had a good time, and would love to see everyone on the workshop that Rich and I are going to do here at 1:30 Pacific Standard Time, I believe is the time.
Yep.
And so we're going to be talking about
Eastern Time.
Yeah. And we're going to be talking about, obviously the software is CopyPro, but specifically around what I call hyperfunnels and how you can basically put a funnel in steroids and the things that you need in your funnel that I'd say literally 1 out of 50 to 100 marketers I know have these all in their funnel. And there's actually a more extended list than that. Like, for example, what we just talked about, having upsells on your upsells, but I'm trying to keep it to where it's like, hey, if we can give you this funnel, if we can give you the copy for this funnel, there is no doubt if you're making any sales at all that you're going to make more money. There's just no doubt, because it's like you just don't have all these funnel pieces plugged in. And the hardest part of the funnel is not the funnel software. I mean, as awesome for GrooveFunnels is awesome, for example. But Mike will tell you, because we're now the copy providers for them, that the words on those funnels are very important. It says, and you can have all the software you want, but you need the words. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Would love to have you in the workshop. The URL is right down there. copypro.ai/FB livestream. So
very cool. And more than welcome to stay. I'm not trying to get rid of you. Just want to make sure that you had a chance, so that you weren't held captive. All right, let's see. To summarize, Jay Abraham, he says we should learn from other things and add them to what we're doing. Yeah. Okay, sounds right. I love playing guitar, writing longhand, and talking. So great to hear. Keep it short. I tend to go on and on. P.S. What's your base channel on YouTube? Do you have a base
I just started it, so don't laugh. Look for Imperfect Bass Covers. Is the name of the channel.
Bass covers.
Yeah. Well, I say that because it's like I want to give bass players like a feeling that you don't like some of the covers I do, they're pretty note for note, and then some of them I make a mistake, and I just keep it because it's like it's no big deal to make a mistake.
Right.
And these guys try to make everything perfect in 27 takes. I'm just not going to do that. So yeah, go check it out.
Makes sense. Can CopyPro assist with writing copy for chatbots?
Sure. Yeah. Chatbot copy is really about ideas. So it's really about the Socratic method.
All right.
Yeah, it's really asking questions. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that seems covered. What's to follow when writing a summary for a book? That's kind of a right, like out of left field. Am I missing something, or did
I don't know. I don't. So writing a summary for a book, yeah, I wouldn't even know because I've never had to do it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll be with that.
Yeah,
Eric. Yeah, probably so. Yeah, looking that way.
Like John Lee Dumas. Hyperfunnels. Yeah, that's what we'll be covering on the if you watched the video after you registered, Dr. Volgerman, you would know all about hyperfunnels. So there you go. Well, very cool, John. So yeah, well, I would say that we can wrap this, unless I don't mind having the extra 10 or so minutes to get prepared for what we're talking about later. So yeah, I'd say we end this and call it a day.
I think we rocked it, man. I think everybody was awesome. Great participation from everyone too. So yeah,
this was really cool. I was too busy here to watch the video, says Dr. Vogelman. All right, well, you're excused then. All right, guys. So yeah, we're gonna end this live stream. I want to appreciate all of you for just coming and jumping on, for commenting, giving emoticons if you did, and sharing if you did. We reached like well over 100 people at some point during this live stream on the different channels combined. So that's kind of cool. And I am going to do more on copy just in general on Thursday as well, because I do have to record 2 YouTube videos, and I'm going to do it during the live stream. So we'll do that on Thursday, but make sure to join us tonight, because this is much more relevant to growing your business. And very cool. So there's the link right below us, and we will see everyone in about 40 minutes from now, if you're watching this live. If not, hopefully that link will be live for some period of time, John, so that maybe we'll figure out some way to evergreen it or something. So
that'd be good. Yeah.
Very cool, guy. All right, man.
Awesome.
Speak soon. I'll see you on the webinar, and hopefully I'll see most of you guys on the webinar as well.